Yeah, we can say that ad revenue sucks. Yeah. Our personal ad revenue for this podcast sucks.
This episode's sponsored by nobody. Sponsored by us.
Yes. Again.
Again. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Poutine Politics. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about the news media.
And specifically, which news media?
Newspapers.
Newspapers.
And, well, I guess in both forms, right? Like, I mean, obviously physical newspapers and then their websites.
Yeah, they're online subscriptions,
right.
But they're print media first.
Right. So now, the angle that I'm going for here, I'm not going to talk about the $600 million journalism fund thing that's going on right now that everybody's saying that Trudeau introduced to buy out the media. This is more looking at the organizations that own certain newspapers and kind of their political leanings and things like that. The reason why I wanted to talk about this topic is because something that I've heard, and not just here in Canada, in the States as well, is that there's a liberal bias to the media. What do you think about that, Mike?
I have very strong opinions on bias in media. I, generally speaking, do not like mainstream media for their sensationalism and exaggeration and making clickbaity material.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, I would say that that's definitely a problem with the media in general, is that the comment I made to someone recently was that most media outlets are now worried more about getting the story out first as opposed to getting the story out right.
And I also personally am not a fan of them publicizing everything what's wrong in the world as opposed to anything that's good.
Yeah.
So
yes.
That just turns me off, and it's turned me off for a number of years, which is why I don't consume the news the way I used to.
Which is probably why most of the topics that I bring up are more news-related type stuff, because I still do read, news-related type stuff, which maybe I shouldn't. But I figure one of us probably should, because I'd like to try and bring a little bit of current events into the podcast. A little.
Listen, there's ongoing island disputes, all right?
That's right, yes. Ongoing island disputes are much more important than what's going on in the mainstream media. I'm going to start with some numbers about essentially what are the major players in the newspaper industry in Canada, and then I'm going to play a little game with you.
Ooh, I'll fail.
All right. Okay, so I would say that there's probably two major newsprint companies in the country. So there's Post Media. So they have they own a total of 35 daily newspapers and 121 total newspapers in the country. Okay. They own the most, not only in dailies, and we're talking generally more of major daily newspapers, and 121 total newspapers across the country. Number two is Torstar. Should be pretty obvious, who Torstar is based on the name.
No idea.
No idea. So Torstar, and technically, I guess also partnered or owning Metroland, has 12 daily newspapers and 100 newspapers total. The difference between the two numbers is there's certain newspapers that might be weeklies or monthlies or magazines, which can get included in those numbers. There's two other, I guess, smaller ones that I'm going to mention here because they may or may not be important as a part of the quiz. Is Black Press, which is technically Canadian, but from the research I did, a lot of the newspapers that they own, or at least their major newspapers, because they do have 3 dailies, are actually in the United States. And they have 88 newspapers total. Okay. And the last one is called Saltwire, which has 8 daily newspapers, 33 newspapers total, and is predominantly Atlantic Canada.
Oh.
Okay. I think there's a reason why Saltwire came to be, and it's in my notes, so I'm going to get there as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So what I decided to do was, because of these numbers, I wanted to look at different major media markets across the country and what newspapers they had that were running as the daily newspapers, because the daily newspapers are the ones that matter the most, and see who owns what, essentially. So here's the quiz. I'm going to start in Vancouver.
Play along, everyone.
All right. So who owns The Vancouver Sun.
The Sunshine Girl.
Okay. No, I mean, I guess you're not wrong.
It's Torstar, isn't it?
No,
The Post owns it?
that's Post Media.
Really?
Okay. So that's number 1.
Yeah, I'm already wrong.
Oh for 1. All right. The Vancouver Province.
Well, then that would be Torstar.
You would also be incorrect.
Oh.
That is also Post Media. So the 2 major dailies in Vancouver, owned by the same media company, Post Media. All right. Edmonton. The Edmonton Journal.
Saltwire. Like, if we're going to go for O, let's just go all
right.
across the board.
So Edmonton Journal, Post Media. The Edmonton Sun.
Sunshine Girl. It's always a Sunshine
It's always
Girl.
the Sunshine Girl. Post Media. I'll take the. Oh wait. Do you want me to actually say that you're wrong, or do you want me to say, okay, well, if you're saying the Sunshine Girl, that's Post Media?
Yeah, I mean, obviously because the Sun, like...
I know it's the name.
The Sun is notorious for the Sunshine Girl, and I guess the Sun got bought by Post.
Sun Media did get purchased by Post Media.
So,
Yes.
like, they're all getting the same. So if you say any other Sun, then obviously it's the same one.
Maybe I'll just skip those ones.
Yeah.
The reason I'm mentioning them is because they're daily papers in the markets that I mention them in. So,
Yeah.
The Calgary Herald.
That is Torstar.
It is not,
Why is it not?
because it's not.
Was it black?
It's Post Media.
It's Post. Okay.
I'm sensing a trend. The Calgary Sun.
Well, it's obviously Post.
It's obviously Post Media.
Or Sunshine Girl. Sorry. My
Okay.
apologies.
In Saskatoon, we have the Star Phoenix.
Black.
No. Shall I
Black
give you a
press.
second guess?
No.
Okay. It's Post Media.
Post Media. Okay.
I thought you would have said Torstar because it's called the Star Phoenix.
No. Because it's the Phoenix. The Phoenix is rising.
Okay. I don't know how that ties into black either, but whatever.
It comes from the black.
Okay. It comes from the black.
It comes from the darkness.
It comes from death.
It comes from
black.
darkness.
Black press.
Comes from darkness.
All right. Winnipeg. The Winnipeg Free Press.
The Winnipeg Free Press. Torstar.
No. The Winnipeg Free Press is actually kind of independently owned. It's owned by FP, Canadian Newspapers Limited Partnership.
But yeah, that wasn't an option.
Well, that's because they're not a major player in the media landscape, but they
The-
are a major daily in
listen.
a major market in Canada.
I call shenanigans.
That-
You
can
didn't
call
say
it. Listen, it's my game. I make the rules.
I can't even make the rules. Shenanigans.
The Toronto Star.
Torstar.
Oh my God, he's got one right.
I'm amazing. Didn't go over for the
and then the Toronto Sun.
Sunshine Girl. I told you this already.
Sunshine Girl. Still the Sunshine Girl. All
Oh,
right.
the
Post
Sunshine
Media.
Girl.
All right. So here's where I'm going to throw you off a bit. Montreal. All right.
The Gazette?
Nope. So, well, the Gazette's one of them, but okay. Let's go with the Gazette first.
Torstar.
Nope.
Oh, I guess that would be forbidden in Montreal. Who am I trying to kid? Is it the Black Press people?
It is not.
Who is it?
It's Post Media.
Of course it is.
Now, the French, okay, so the French newspaper's there. So Le Devoir
Oh.
is independent. Le Journal is owned by Quebecor, which is a big media company in Quebec, which I think
Yep, yep.
Quebecor also does a lot of like cable television and stuff there too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they own Videotron.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then La Presse, which is also independent. So as you can see, predominantly in Montreal, the media is independent, except for the Gazette, which is Post Media. Charlottetown, The Guardian.
Is that the Saltwire people?
That is the Saltwire people, yes.
I like the Saltwire people.
Okay. Halifax, the Chronicle Herald.
The Haligonians? Torstar.
No. So Chronicle Herald is Saltwire, and that's actually the newspaper where Saltwire started.
Oh,
was
okay.
the Halifax Chronicle Herald.
Good for you, Haligonians.
And then in Halifax, we also have the Star Metro. That should be pretty easy, right?
Wait, isn't it Torstar?
So this one's a partnership.
Ooh.
So there's a company from Europe called Metro International. So down in Toronto, I think it's still around. There's this little like free daily called Metro. The Star Metro is a partnership between Torstar and Metro, but Torstar is a 10% owner.
Okay.
Metro is a 90% owner. So
I got you.
St. John's Telegram.
Saltwire.
Yes. Okay, so then Ottawa. I'm going to finish with Ottawa. So we have the Ottawa Citizen.
Torstar.
It's Post Media. And the Ottawa Sun.
I love how I've been saying everything that's not Post Media. Like, it should have been my default answer. Post Media. It's just Post Media.
That's right.
It's always Post Media.
So
Or Sunshine Girl.
Or Sunshine Girl. So Ottawa Sun is Post Media. All right. So as you can see,
It's an economically diverse group of post medias.
totally 100%.
I thought Torstar owned more.
Again, Torstar owns a lot of smaller market newspapers, is what I'll say.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, like, again, Torstar owns 100 newspapers to Post Media's 121. But when it comes to kind of the larger market dailies, Post Media has them outnumbered by like 3-1.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so, and part of the issue is, I mean, the papers and the websites that people will probably tend to read are the ones that are more from the major cities as opposed to their local news, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not going on to, I don't know, let's say the Barrie Advance's website as much as I'm going on Toronto Star's website or going on the Globe and Mail's website or the National Post,
Yes.
right? So that's, yeah. Where's my national? Oh, right. Okay. So the two big national papers. The National Post.
Saltwire. I mean, National Post is where Post Media came from, but yeah.
Yes,
Saltwire.
exactly. So National Post is Post Media. And the Globe and Mail.
It's Toastar, isn't it?
No. So Globe and Mail is owned by the Woodbridge Company, which is independent.
Of course it is. Because, why would you throw me something nice and easy?
Well,
Nice, brother.
as the last one. And again, it's a small media company, the Woodbridge Company, although it owns one of the largest newspapers in the country. What I feel as an important distinction and where kind of Saltwire has come up out in Atlantic Canada is that apparently back in 2006, Post Media stopped publishing the National Post in Atlantic Canada and the territories.
A budget concern?
Maybe. I did not get into the specifics. I just saw it as a part of when I was looking at the Wikipedia page about Saltwire, where it was mentioned that, or no, maybe it was the National Post article. Either way, it was one of the two, and it was mentioned that the National Post stopped publishing out east in 2006.
Interesting.
So in the end result, I guess technically they only had one official national newspaper, which would have been the Globe and Mail, because I didn't see anything to say the Globe and Mail stopped publishing out there. But
Yeah.
you'll notice that at least in the major markets, there's a relative lack of Post Media saturation east of Ontario, outside of having a newspaper in Montreal.
Yeah.
So, but based on this, which company do you think has, I guess, the largest control over the newsprint media in this country?
You'd think Post Media.
I would think so too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean, and you often see that in spheres that you get people that are from, Atlantic Canada. You get people that are from Central Canada. You get people that are from the West Coast. And it's not surprising that certain demographics and the North is always forgotten about.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I tried looking up Yellowknife to see what they had for newspapers in Yellowknife, and up there's a company called the Northern News Service. So again, it's more of an independent thing again as well. So that's why I didn't look at Yellowknife and I didn't look at Whitehorse, and I'm like, okay, well, at least their news appears to be more independent, right?
Right.
I'm not trying to discount the territories, but I left them out of our little quiz.
They are not a full province, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't worry about my viewership. Unfortunately, my viewership in Great Slave Lake is not going to be what it needs to
Yeah, we haven't had any listeners in the territories yet.
be.
No, not quite yet. So a couple of notes about some of these other companies. So we're going to start with Saltwire. Okay. So Saltwire used to get a lot of its, it would obviously have local journalists for its different papers. But then when it was pulling in news that was of a more national variety, it was pulling from the Canadian press.
Okay.
Until March of 2019.
Why March 2019?
Because apparently this is when they changed whatever agreements or contracts or whatever they had. So they were no longer, so kind of their national flavor news was no longer coming from the Canadian press. Guess where it was coming from?
Post Media?
Yes. Post Media and Reuters.
And Reuters.
And Reuters,
Oh, okay.
but Post Media. Okay. And I mean, Reuters is important because it is an international news organization that also technically has a center right leaning, which whatever. I mean, if it's a center right leaning, whatever, it doesn't matter. But
I look at newspapers, and I mean, I like it when they lean as opposed to are.
yes,
Right? There's a difference. You can have a topic that you can consider center right, and you can have a discussion on that and a debate. But if you're far, and I don't mean far right, if you just have one point of view and are unwilling to compromise on that point of view, you're not having a debate. You're having a yelling match.
Toronto Sun. Just saying. Okay, and then the black press. So I guess as a disclosure, so the black press is owned 20% by Torstar and 80% by an individual, by the individual that created the black press. So again, they obviously have a minority stake in it, but they do still have a stake in it. Now, again, I mentioned earlier the major dailies, as they call them, that black press has. One of them is in Hawaii and one of them is in Washington State. The major dailies don't even have anything to do with Canada. The black press predominantly owns small community newspapers, and a lot of it is out west. I know the owner is based in BC.
Okay.
So I think the problem, too, is that there is a relative lack of local community news. Not even newspapers, just news.
Which some people, and I was formerly of the opinion, is a good thing. That, I don't care about my local news. It doesn't matter. Why should I care about local news reporting when all they report is bad things? However, the most valuable thing in journalism is investigative journalism. I don't mind a newspaper printing something that's investigative as opposed to something that's bad. And there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Investigative is where they find corruption. Bad news is about some crazy thing that happened on the highway that, like a 4-pile car crash. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
That's not helpful to me in any way, shape, or going after corrupt government officials. I want more of that.
Right.
And less of some bank robbery.
Right. Like,
I don't care.
Like the Panama Papers situation, right?
Yeah.
Like that was investigative journalism. It was literally, there's a group called the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. They are the group that brought the whole Panama Papers investigation to light, right? Now, Again, has as much happened with that as we would hope? No, but Panama Papers was also only 4 years ago, roughly. I mean, these things take time. The problem is that there have been journalists that are a part of ICIJ and that were part of the Panama Papers investigation that have died under mysterious circumstances since the Panama Papers came out.
Yeah. That there's just a whole bunch of, and that's where the money towards media that some people are criticizing, like if you don't have an arm to keep politicians and companies too, like not just politicians, companies as well, in line, then that's a big problem that you will see manifest very badly. And I'm not saying journalists are perfect, because they're not. They do have bias. They do have laziness. I've seen it time and time again where they do lazy writing that is just misleading. But there's a difference between misleading and biased.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, for sure. In regards then to the bias and kind of what you also mentioned in regards to having a specific lean, whether left or right. So what I looked at was the endorsements that different newspapers have given to political parties in the last few elections.
Okay.
All right. It was startling to see how badly weighted the endorsements were towards the Conservatives. How many newspapers endorsed the Conservatives? I'm not saying that I'm anti-conservative. I'm just saying that personally, I don't feel like that's the media's place. Opinion pieces, sure, but the biggest problem in the 2015 election was the fact that almost every single post-media newspaper ran that big yellow ad on the front page that almost looked like an Elections Canada ad because it used that same kind of black and yellow coloring and stuff like that, and that was basically post-media saying we're endorsing the Conservatives.
Yeah, and they're not wrong to. You want to. If you're in the news, you want to go to the people that are going to most likely to read your newspapers and therefore get you. So if a newspaper went farther to the left, that's more of a young people's movement. Yes, you tend to get older, you tend to go more right, which is funny because I'm going more to the middle.
Yeah. I think I am too. I think when I was younger, I was left, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm in the middle as well, but I'm center left. I would say I'm center left.
Yeah, I say I'm center right now because the stuff on the right just makes me want to go, what are you doing? Like that, that's not fiscally responsible. What? Like my idea of right wing is fiscal responsibility, cut spending on social programs, but not gut them. I just mean like rein them in, so to speak, so you can run a balanced deficit. Like that's my philosophy of that. Like when you're not in a recession, you don't need to spend money.
Yeah.
Right. And then I see what they're doing. I'm like, what? But that is nothing. Like get your nose out of stuff that doesn't belong.
Okay. So 2015 election endorsements. So Conservatives, I mentioned the post media endorsed them. So the newspapers I'm about to read off are ones that we already went over. They're owned by Post Media. They were owned by Post Media in 2015. So a lot of the Sun newspapers, obviously, and then the Calgary Herald, Edmonton Journal, London Free Press, Montreal Gazette, National Post, Ottawa Citizen, The Province, which is out in BC, Regina Leader Post, the Star Phoenix in Saskatoon, the Vancouver Sun, and the Windsor Star. All of them endorsed the Conservatives in 2015. All of them are Post Media newspapers. Woodbridge, which owns the Globe and Mail, did also endorse the Conservatives, but they did express a desire for Harper to resign.
Huh.
And so apparently they upset a lot of Conservatives because of that.
Well, there's not a lot of mechanisms for
winning an election and then the leader resigning right away.
Well, not that. But there's not a lot of mechanisms for you to replace a leader of a party.
No, that's true.
Well, NDP has it. NDP actually has a good one, which is why Thomas McClair's not in there anymore. But every 2 years they can have a vote of no confidence, basically.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
like
saying.
A vote of review is what they call it.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas the Liberals can't do anything.
Right. And then Torstar endorsed the Liberals, and some of the newspapers that were included in that endorsement were, and there's going to be a theme to these newspapers, so just pay attention to the theme: the Burlington Post, the Guelph Mercury, the Hamilton Spectator, the Oakville Beaver, the Toronto Star, and the Waterloo Region Record.
Oh, right. Okay.
The theme is that they're all in and around the Golden Horseshoe in Ontario. But you'll notice that the list of newspapers that I mentioned under Post Media is basically Ontario West.
Yeah.
So a lot broader range is what Post Media had in its endorsements. In 2011, Conservatives, predominantly Post Media, but there were certain newspapers, I guess, that were not necessarily under the Post Media umbrella at the time. Like Sun Media hadn't been purchased by Post Media yet in 2011. But some of the newspapers that I mentioned that endorsed the Liberals in 2015 endorsed the Conservatives in 2011, including the Burlington Post, the Hamilton Spectator, the Oakville Beaver, the Waterloo Region Record, and on top of that, The Economist, the magazine, Maclean's, the magazine, and the Sudbury Star. They all endorsed the Conservatives.
Oh, okay.
And then the Toronto Star endorsed the NDP instead of the Liberals, but they did also endorse Liberals in ridings that were a close race between the Liberals and Conservatives.
Shouldn't media just not endorse one party and just keep their business out of it? Wouldn't this just solve the problem? Like, run the ads. Like, it's money for the different companies. Like, I don't care. But, like, why does a newspaper have any business saying we endorse this the newspaper endorses this as a part of their print? Like, you can do it off the print, fine. Yeah. But like to put your own ad in your own newspaper, how does that?
Oh yeah.
Like that just looks corrupt as all get out.
Oh yeah, that was the biggest problem. And that ad came out, if I remember correctly, it was on election day.
Whatever.
I mean, whether that makes a difference or not, I'm talking about 2015, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah. So, anyways, whether that matters or not. So, what newspapers didn't give endorsements? This was a very small list on the list that I saw.
Very advanced.
No. So, so in 2015, the newspapers that gave no endorsement whatsoever were Le Soleil, which is in Quebec City, and the Winnipeg Free Press.
Wait, no. The actual title was actually free? No. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's the name of the newspaper. It's the Winnipeg Free Press.
Sorry. For those of you that are listening, I adamantly believe that if you say something in your name, you are usually the exact opposite.
Oh, so you're thinking that they
The
would have endorsed somebody, right?
Yeah, the Winnipeg Free Press should have been totally right-wing conservative.
Yeah.
That's exactly the type of newspaper that a right-wing conservative would say.
Right. But the Winnipeg Free Press is relatively independently owned by FP, Canadian Newspapers Limited Partnership. I'm sure the FP stands for Free Press. But then I mentioned in my list of newspapers that endorsed the Conservatives in 2015, the London Free Press.
That's what I mean.
They're not connected to each other.
Yeah, I know, but all the time I hear all these different people like we're the whatever of Canada. Anytime I hear of Canada, I'm like, you're obviously hawking something.
Yeah.
Right?
Canada proud.
Yeah. Like Canada proud. You're just a right-wing arm. Like you're so bad. And like, Fox News is always what their slogan was. Fair and balanced. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Like, don't even try. CNN doesn't have that.
No.
CNN doesn't have anything like that.
No.
They try and hawk something else, which they're completely not.
What theirs is like what the world leader in
Yeah.
in some whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even. That's how little it matters. I don't remember. And
Yeah.
most
Their
people probably
slogan
don't either.
isn't what they do.
Yeah.
And everybody's slogan isn't what they do. So the fact that the Winnipeg Free Press is actually Free Press is amazing to me.
Yes. Okay. So then in 2011,
Must be a dinosaur.
in 2011, no endorsement again came from Le Soleil in Quebec City.
Don't tell me the Winnipeg Free Press didn't do it.
They were not on either list. They were not. I did not see them on any list as endorsing anybody in 2011.
Okay, good.
So
I have high hope for the Winnipeg Free Press. Apparently, that's going to be my newspaper to read.
Find their website out. What I found out. So Wikipedia had these lists for the elections 2006, 2008, 2011, and 2015. And so what I found in looking through those lists is that in those 4 elections, more newspapers endorsed the Conservatives than any other party combined.
The liberal media, right?
Yes.
Right.
The liberal media endorsed the Conservatives.
Of course they did. I hate the liberal media.
Damn liberal media. So the last thing I wanted to cover, which isn't necessarily a media bias thing, but it does go back to the issue about the loss of local newspapers. In 2017, there was a deal between Torstar and Post Media. Yes, they do work together sometimes.
Yeah. You can be rival companies and work together just as long as it's not collusion.
Yes, exactly. They essentially had a quote-unquote sale. Apparently no money changed hands, but newspapers changed hands. So Post Media owned certain papers and Torstar owned certain papers. And they were all like local community papers. And there was just over 40 of them that were a part of this transfer, since it wasn't really a sale. Within weeks of the transfer happening, only 6 of them were left open.
So they flipped them and closed them?
They flipped them and closed them.
But why wouldn't they just close them themselves?
Unfortunately, like I didn't have enough time to do the full research as to why the decision was there.
You mean
as to why they closed them or why they flipped them before closing them?
You mean the National Post didn't research on it?
They might have.
They didn't write an article on themselves?
I don't know. Probably not. No, you know what? I think the National Post probably did, because I think the Toronto Star had something about that story when it happened as well, if I'm not mistaken, and Torstar was a part of it. I mean, I don't think that they were trying to defend their actions. I get it that local newspapers are relatively unprofitable. Newspapers in general are almost unprofitable, which is why a lot of the major ones now are moving towards the subscription model for their websites, because more people are going to the website than buying the newspaper. And since the newspaper costs money, but the website didn't, they're losing money.
Yeah.
And there's not enough ad revenue online for them.
No, ad revenue sucks.
Now, all these newspapers were kind of, at least the ones that were in this particular trade, were in Ontario. So there's some effect to us. And our local newspaper was one of the papers that was transferred and then immediately closed.
Yeah.
Now, whether your opinion on your local paper is good or bad, I think the problem is more so just the fact that the loss of media in general can be a bad thing. But if the media does keep going the way that it's going, where it is a left versus right, as opposed to being an unbiased media that holds whatever government to account,
Yeah.
like that's the problem, I feel.
One of the big reasons why I stopped consuming media was that I had such a huge issue getting through fluff, getting through partisan hyperbole. I don't care about that stuff, right? Like if the People's Party of Canada has a good policy, I want to know about it. I don't want to endorse the People's Party of Canada because of certain things they stand for, but that doesn't mean every single thing they say is bad.
That's right. I can agree with that.
Right? So
I don't necessarily agree with Maxime Bernier's tweets recently, but I mean, whatever.
There's lots of things that are wrong with that party.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve coverage. That doesn't mean you don't want to investigate them. That doesn't mean I don't want to hear their opinion. And
they're getting almost no coverage as it stands.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a reason.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, actually, considering everything we've just gone over, there's an obvious reason.
Newspapers realize that they can influence, huge influence. And millennials and people like that, they're just tired of... Millennials realize now that they don't have to get their media through that avenue, and they're going elsewhere.
Yeah. People will scoff at it, but I mean, it's probably why websites like BuzzFeed News has become so big and the Huffington Post has become so big, is that there feels like there's an independence to them. And yeah, they obviously cover a lot more stuff in the States, but they do have a worldwide range. I mean, heck, there's probably people that just go right to the Canadian Press website instead of going to one of the newspapers' websites to get their stories, because while the Canadian Press stories can be kind of bland to read, that's what the media should be. Report the facts, don't have a lean to it, don't have a bias. Here's the information.
I don't mind the bias. I just don't want overt partisan.
Yeah,
you can lean.
I guess that's what I mean. Yeah, that's
like you can lean any way you want to, but just don't do over partisanship. Like
yes.
CNN in America is probably the best example. They lean center left, we'll say, but it's not like they endorse anything.
Right.
They're just terrible hacks. I can't believe that. Like, and I guess it's because I stepped away from news like back in the early 2000s because I was just so tired of it. I can't believe they have those segments where you have one person talk about something and then they'll bring on a panel of 6 people, and you're like, why are you talking in a panel?
Because everything needs a panel now.
Why? Like it's just theater.
Why do you think shows like Real Time have become so popular? Because here's the topic. Let's go to the panel.
I mean, I understand that we are a panel ourselves, but
yeah, but we're only 2 people. That doesn't really make a panel.
But I'm not trying to be something else. I'm not trying to claim I'm a news organization.
Right.
I'm not trying to sit here and preach to you that, we have all the facts. It just, my eyes roll when I just hear like these, that's why I so desperately want to have a good newspaper that does investigative journalism. And if the Winnipeg Free Press is it, I will read it religiously. Like, I don't care. I thought Vox was going to be that in the States. It's not.
No, it's not. People have that same problem, I think, with Vice as well. Vice does have
Vice has some fantastic investigative journalism.
But the problem still is that it has a bad rap for that, and whether justly or not, it has this bad rap that it's part of the liberal media bias, as people say, and it's like I don't know. I don't think so.
Most Vice articles I will read.
Yeah,
most of them. Vox I don't, because Vox I just find it's just an anti-Fox, which is why their name was the way they were. I was like, wow, you really played that one really easily, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was trying to get my stuff through there, and I was like, no. And plus, it was all American stuff, and I don't care about the Americans. Like you're
That doesn't help us for this podcast either.
No, it's just a dumpster fire. Just throw it on a dumpster fire. You're good.
Anyways, so that's been a look at kind of, major media ownership and media bias in Canada. Like I said, I do want to get to discussing the media fund, the journalism fund that was introduced in the most recent budget, but I think at the same time, I don't see it as a big deal. I don't see it as a big deal either. We're talking about $600 million over 10 years. Yeah, we're not even talking about $600 million right now. We're talking about $600 million over 10 years.
And I have no problems with journalists being around. I think you have to have journalism. Yeah. You have to have it.
I think the question, I guess the issue is we'd almost sound hypocritical because we have issues with things like oil and gas subsidies, but this could be looked as a journalism subsidy. But I guess at the same time, it's what's more important.
My problem with oil and gas subsidies is killing the planet. Not
okay. Well, yeah, all right. I mean, fine.
Is to kill the planet.
Fine. Yes. Okay.
There's a big difference here.
Hey, man, how many of those newspapers that get printed are actually made off of recycled paper? Come on.
I don't care. Just plant more trees. It's a renewable resource. You cut down a tree, you plant a tree. Wait, how is this a difficult concept?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was going to say something else. I don't remember what it is now. So I guess it wasn't that important. Oh, no, right. I remember what it was. Yeah. So going over the companies and that are involved in the news media and going over this journalism fund. Well, guess which company made the biggest lobbying push for this journalism fund?
Oh, Saltwire, definitely.
Totally Saltwire, 100%.
No, it was FP, the Free Press people.
It was the Free Press people.
Free Press people. They clearly had all the money to lobby.
Well, let's see. As I said earlier, Post Media has a 3-to-1 advantage on major daily newspapers in this country over Torstar, their competition. So I would think that Post Media would probably have the most to lose if their newspapers had to start shutting down. Yay or nay?
Yeah.
So who do you think had the biggest push in the lobbying for this fund?
It should be the Post Media.
Absolutely. 100%.
I'm
not saying they're the only ones that lobbied, but they were the major lobbyers.
Good job backing your conservative writing and then pushing for money. That's a job well done.
And then complaining about socialism.
Job well done, boys. A+.
All right. I think we're done here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This has been Poutine Politics. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.
Have a good one.